Welcome back, everybody. Happy New Year. My name is Phil Marriott. If you are new here and you're into music and movies, then this is the channel for you. So much stuff coming up in the next few weeks for 2022. Today, I am joined, as always, for Boys on Film by the fabulous Sean Vickers. He's there. I get it wrong every time.
I can't get my hands right on these cameras. Hi, everyone.
They're really small, aren't they, your hands, normally? Yeah.
I'm like that.
Creepy.
Happy New Year.
So, documentary, we've just seen it. It's called Ailey. It's all about the dancer, legendary dancer, I should say, and choreographer, who is Alvin Ailey. Now, we know that you love a documentary, especially a queer documentary, right?
Oh, I do. Right up my street, Phil. So, around contemporary dancer Alvin Ailey and the formation of the American Dance Company, I think it anchors around the dance and the power of the dance, and less so about him as a person, which I think often with documentaries, it goes one of two ways. And this really does, I think, anchor around the strength and power and kind of the agency that his movement created, really.
You're absolutely right, because I was going to mention that in this review. I was going to kind of, not that it's a criticism of the documentary, because I loved it, but I did want to find out more about him as a person, because that was kind of like touched on, obviously, because it is about his life, but I think his work played a massive part of his life, and I think, you know, obviously that was quite an important part of a part of this documentary. I should say it's directed by somebody that knew him. I think she was a student 20 years ago or something, and she was watching one of his performances. Jamila Wignot is her name. So she's the person responsible for the documentary. I just thought it was fascinating. I didn't know anything about him either before I saw this.
Okay, we all have many pasts, Phil, right? I have the past where at one point in London I was, dating someone who was involved very much in the contemporary dance world, and Alvin Ailey was very much a name, who was respected and revered, and basically all over the world. So, I mean, I've been in Chicago and seen contemporary dance, and I get globally, one incredible name, one incredible legacy. So I did know about Alvin Ailey. That's why I guess I was interested in their story, which comes through to some extent, and I think it's interesting how it's kind of positioned within this documentary. As you mentioned, it's not necessarily all about Alvin's story per se, personal life.
So, born in 1931, born at a really difficult time as well, because it was the height of the Great Depression. Abandoned by his father, I think he was 3 months old, and his mum was forced to work in cotton fields as well. A really difficult upbringing, but obviously his mum loved him, and that comes across in the documentary. I mean, what a great woman.
Incredible. I mean, clearly an incredible bond between the two of them, because that's one of the few relationships that you kind of are exposed to, which is the strength of the bond between mother and son. I was reflecting back on this. Yes, you don't get very much, but he was kind of an auteur, and it's lonely at the top. I think he held this position of greatness and power, and rightly so. And at times, I think the documentary reflects that, which it is quite lonely, and he was quite lonely. And so in some ways, what it doesn't tell you is also, it's what it does. It's all the spaces, right? It's all that negative space in the documentary where you're filling in the gaps, because, and it's left for the viewer really to make some decisions about a path that was followed, which we've seen unfortunately tread many, many times about greats who are lost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess he was a really private person as well, because he, not many people knew that he was gay either. And he just wanted to throw himself into his work. He had a lot of health problems too. He had a lot of mental health problems. I think he was diagnosed with as bipolar, wasn't he, in the 80s? But he died in 1989, an AIDS-related illness. But I think he wanted his doctor to, because of his mum, he didn't want his mum to worry. Because of all the stigma around AIDS, he didn't want that to be well known.
Yeah, and it comes through. I mean, tale as old as time. Unfortunately, I mean, we talk about this often on Flopped about I know incredible pop stars who follow this narrative across the 80s and then pass away, and absolute legends that are lost. You just think about what the legacy could be, even more so. We see it across a whole range of media and people that went too soon. And he is clearly one of them.
And we should also mention, obviously, this is a dance group that honoured black culture through dance as well. And, the feedback was phenomenal. There was one story about I think it was in Australia when they did a tour, and they went to Australia, and I think there was 25 people in the audience. And then the next night, obviously because word of mouth got out, the next night was just packed out. It was sold out. So it just shows you how much of an impact their work had on people.
Incredible, really quite incredible. I'd say that a legacy that continues. You know, there's often some incredible pieces at places like Sadler's Wells, where they'll do pieces that reference Martha Graham and Alvin Ailey, and so a legacy that will continue, and it's still a fully very powerful, you know, dance company based out of New York. So I loved it. I thought it was great, and to some extent, I got past the deep and personal stuff, because I think it's there in plain sight. It's just not spoken to.
I wanted more though. I mean, it was an hour and a half, but I could have easily sat through another half an hour just with some more details. But maybe that will come. Maybe that, you know, they'll do another documentary at some stage, I would have thought, because
maybe so. I thought as a piece of documentary filmmaking, I thought it was great. It felt resolved. I feel like I know more about Alvin Ailey now. I mean, that's an obvious, but there's something much deeper, as you mentioned. You know, his pieces and the emotion that comes through when he talks about race or slavery that was portrayed through their work is quite incredible, really.
Yeah, it's really good. I thought it was great. 4 stars for me.
All for me too. And you know, I'm a hard marker.
I know you're a hard marker. I knew you were going to like it though, because, you know, you've expressed such an interest in queer documentaries anyway, and I knew this was one of the good ones. I mean, not all queer documentaries are great, obviously, but this is one of the best, I think.
But you know, it sits in a bracket for me. There's an amazing film that was made a few years ago called Tango, which I think was at the late 90s. I absolutely loved. And then you think about that amazing piece of work, Pina, about Pina Bausch. Again, incredible, really. And I think it sits in that category.
So it's Ailey. It comes out in the UK and Irish cinemas, 7th of January. One to watch, definitely, for Boys on Film anyway. We give it a big thumbs up. Thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you for playing a part of Boys on Film in 2021, Sean, as well, and Happy New Year to you.